Transverse flute. Let is on an arret, while errant leers among the trees. Their tailors on a ratter, they starve through nervous fault. These savers and lavers of SARS start an astute returnee to Sèvres, Neural Steen on Ferula, and Verne on lasers. These savers oot on Susan's turf is terse. But Sver has his rents and Estes his virtue. They can saute anything to taste and don't have Lus or Teslas or Fenestrals, though their owners are versant with a sir. But how many Teslas can there be in one late flam? And how much Sal in a vault? Some of their leases are neural, since these leasers have Sura. That's why they and Tina restart a fetus and strafe a seer in fetal ruse. In Arles, their taters and Venas are real, but Lee slates Venas for lets who ask, if there are fenestrae in every fetus, and there are, and a salver in the tar, and there may be, why does no Lou fasten to art in Esterol, as many return to as turn away from their tenants? Some ask whether any lunette can be Seret if none's ulnar. Let's ravel it out. Did Varese ever use turn? He was no Tsar, and neither Sue nor Eve will ever be a slave. They say Erastus leavened Stephen's unreal settee with flattices, though his late aunt was a self-starter. Most sales aren't, no more than Renee is you. Then did Sver lure Nas to refute the East? Not if Venettis were ever real. And what about Rival? It was never near a tarn. Nevertheless, some fatten, some avert, and some refuse the unreal, as Certes did Vestes. Do Arles revenues relate to elaters on Traves? Where else? Not in Vest. Then what did Sarah insure for if a tale can avert a funeral felt in a Nevis? That it slant toward Erevan, not us? We aren't any severer, though all luster is from Ra. And when Venus is an estrus, she may flatter Stella Terret users' revest. However, in Nevers and Saint, Ferran'll be relet by Vane and Art, although there's a stare of it in Leuven, where there are no reefs to unstate or arrest a leaser. But what does a refuter unreeve from his arse as he struts about the synod? Nothing of Sarah's, nothing renal, never a sterlet, and nothing fray whatever has ratine to reverse a sternal fever. Then who'd leave an easel to unstate Tuva's ferrules? Not Sarah, he saunters, and not through any fenestre. He uses terries to taunt truants, transfuse teens, and traverse lutes others revet. Does no one tease him? Ain, furnace. Not she who's at the feet of Reese when she's an estrus. Yes, she who with her ferula ensures astern that she's a teaser, with antlers on her feet and ferula in her eaves. See how she struts. a serf of Ferula as Una is of Furan. Una who? Una tree. Recorder. Who's at the core? Whoever can read an ode. Who can read one? Reese can. He did. What was it about? A rock. Who is it by? Ed, long ear this, told a Cree that it was by Rode. Did his doing that erode anything? No, according to Rod, but he may be an error. He's a Sarah to the core, but he too can read Rode. Is that the Rode who was said to recode decor? Yes, he was always a doer. What did he do with a reed? He taught a coed his creed. His creed? What was its core? Can't tell you, Doc. But the ore Reed used to make a rod was what he had to seed to Reese. And through an error, Reed let Dore do the decor. Read the record. Red gave Reed to Rod to erode what he rode, so he'd have to reorder. This was due to his credo. He was so much against the Rio. If we read his creed, we see what we dree because of that red recoder. If he had, Reed wouldn't have had to let Reese have an oar, much less his oar. What did the doc order, O Reese, and what did Ed reorder? Redo it ere you do that co-ed recoder. Doc says to do it or D without an ur for your creed. That's an order. Dore made an error as a reader for core. Oh, core, cried Ed, not for Rode ere was doe so red. Reread, can a doe erode the code of the creed? Not by a red cod. Re-core. Did Ed err? Not by an ur. But for decor, Doc had a deer, by odd, never a rock or a cod. Let's record what dree we felt re-re, tied in a co with a cord, and no Doc there, as or and or dur wrote a C on her. Was it worse when Dore drove to core in her Rio? Worse than it seemed to her when no one there spelled cod with a C. Nevertheless, she sold all her ore to make a record for them. Why didn't she just sell it and buy them plenty of cod? This way she got them more. She's so sincere. Yes, and she loves deer too, especially red ones. Then who could it be who tried to erode what she rode in? Doc, she's rotten to the core. You ought to have seen how rode Rod when he erred in his record on Ed. She made him redo it ere she'd seed. That's the way Ree is. She's no deer, as Reese says. She's a doer, not just a recorder. You won't get her writing an ode to a rock. She'd read the OED for an ura, that cod. What dree she'd cause or a C. It's only Reed who'd say she's not a cod, but a deer. But he's been seen in a Rio with that co-ed. He'd call her a roe, but not Reese. And not Dore. He says she's an orderer who tried to make him heir. Before he'd do that, he'd D.